All right, guys. So it seems that we are live. Welcome, everyone. I see people joining in. Thanks for coming. For every attendee, if you want to just introduce yourself or just let us know where you're talking from in the comment section, that would be awesome. I'm guessing for some of the attendees, they are just grabbing the first cup of coffee, and for others, it's already a beer. So we got people from everywhere in the world. Even like the speakers, I'm guessing like we have four different countries here. So that's awesome.
That's cool.
So yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys, the hosts for hopping in today. We have gathered a world class room of growth hackers here. These guys have cracked the code on how to kind of package growth as a service. And so whenever I'm thinking about who should I refer to, they're the ones that come on the top of my mind. So there's a lot of to share, a lot of experience, and just a brief introduction of who is in the room today. Nelio, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Can you
Awesome.
hear me now, though?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, hi everyone. My name is Nelio. Thank you very much, Pedro and the Growth Hackers team, to be in this amazing panel. Long story short, I started completely in another universe. I started in corporate. I was a corporate marketer in the headquarters of L'Oreal and Chanel in Paris. And then in 2013, the company sent me to like the emerging markets in Saudi Arabia, and that's where I met like some really awesome guys that were starting their startups, and they said, we need like a head of marketing, whatever. You seem pretty good at it, why don't you come? And little did I know, this was like an app, so you have to be extremely good at mobile marketing, performance marketing, and all of that. And basically that startup of 10 people, we brought it in 2 years from 10 people to 3,200 people, and last year it got bought out by Uber for $3.1 billion. So I did pretty much like the whole bootstrapping, scale up to just like to the moon.
Full
After
cycle.
that, full cycle. After that, I joined another startup that two friends of mine had built, the Uber of laundry of the Middle East. And we scaled the company by 7x in 14 months through Instagram ads. And we became a case study, like a regional case study in Dubai for Facebook. After that, I decided, well, I've got a playbook now, and yeah, I decided to pretty much like sell that as a service and try to understand how growth could actually be sold as a service. And now I've been 2 years in, founder of Urban Monks. We're a team of 6 people, and yeah, that's my story.
Awesome, Nelio. Thank you so much. And again, like it's quite a journey that you have to share, like B2C, B2B, uh, like Series A, Series B, seed round, L'Oreal, like $1 billion company. So full cycle. Thanks for joining us. And just like I'm seeing people from in the comment section, we got people from Brazil, people from Poland, people from India, Vietnam, Mumbai, Spain, Switzerland, Peru. So yeah, we have got the whole world here. And Ale, you want to tell people a little bit more about you guys? About you? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. First of all, it's a pleasure, Pedro. Thank you for the invitation. I'm just very glad to be here and excited to learn more. We are just building these first steps of making growth as an agency, I think. And it's crazy because Nelly, my history is just not alike yours, but seems in a little moments. I was an entrepreneur since ever. I opened my first company with like 18 years old around this, and then I just make some startups, three times founder. So I get an exit kind of 4 years ago, and then we started just reunite, just in a group of people that also are entrepreneurs, and we just starting to figure it out. Come on, what happens with us, and what we know that we can do for others. Building this kind of framework of how to, and that's when growth comes to very basic idea that just completes the complete makes sense. That's why we start to work and get growth as a framework and as a process of experimentation. So, and building these things. And around this 4 years, we have like more than 100 clients. And we also worked with big companies, corporates like Unilever, Cogna. So many corporates trying to figure out how to create startups from inside out, and we know how to do, right? So we can help. And also we work with startups in many stages, like early stage to Series A, Series B, also late stage $1 billion companies that when we started are not $1 billion companies. So that's journey makes completely sense, and that's crazy because we are in the field validating that when we have a good process and you are pursuing the right metrics, things happen. And that's a cool. So come on, I'm starting another topic here. We'll talk more.
I will ask about that in a second. But just before we hop into the questions that the attendees have asked during the registration process, Jim, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what you are up to?
Yeah, for sure. So hi, I'm Jim Huffman. I'm the CEO of Growth Hit. We're a growth marketing agency. I'm in Seattle, Washington. Used to be in New York, but we've worked with over 150 brands or startups. Kind of as this plug and play growth team, from companies that have been on Shark Tank to raise money from Andreessen Horowitz to big brands that are trying to run this kind of growth culture at their company. And my background, I started investment banking, and instead of looking at spreadsheets, I got into this thing called marketing. Got really lucky that I was a part of 2 startups as employee number 1 and 3. One that went to 1 million users, another one that we ended up raising like $40 million. So similar to Nilo, being able to be a part of those rocket ships, you can just accelerate your learning. And then from that, really how I was able to start my agency was partnering with venture capital firms to be the growth person that plugs into these startups. So anyone that's looking to launch their own service and just get that first client, have a lot of thoughts there. And also, very selfish plug, but we are desperately hiring, and as I'm sure these guys are. So sorry, Pedro, I had to throw that out there, but I know there's probably a lot of talented people on this call. So growthhit.com, hiring, please help me.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you so much. No need to apologize. It's really nice to have you guys out here. So yeah, I want to start with with Nilo actually. Nilo, I like to describe growth hacking as the constant process of experimentation, as opposed to randomly just running one hypothesis or something like that. It's actually the constant process of experimentation, right? So my question to you is, how can you actually package that into a service that you can provide customers? Like, how would you go about offering growth hacking as a service to a potential customer?
So it's a very interesting question, and I think, to be honest, we're still figuring this out properly. But I think what really differentiates growth hacking, it's basically it's not just a marketing technique that developed by tech startups to use like creativity, analytical thinking, and tech options to sell and expose your product, but it's more of a holistic approach that is fundamentally fundamentally rooted in data-driven marketing. So the only way really I can actually think of answering these questions, at least the way we do it, it's basically that we do not only stick to performance marketing, because growth hacking as the beauty of going the full funnel and to develop a proper marketing T-shape. And that's the beauty of it, because for people that are really into infinite learning and learning a broadness of skills, then that's how we literally package the service. So we focus our expertise on performance, but then we provide as a plus in terms of consulting from performance marketing, CRO, copywriting, deep understanding of organic distribution. Even if we don't do it, we do understand this in the minor details, so that we can give our clients a perspective that goes beyond ads, analytics, cost dev, And of course, something that I'm extremely bullish on, I'm extremely big on, is like behavioral psychology. So these are like really the areas we focus on. We execute on performance because we are, up until today, we're not like really able to perform on all the other part of the marketing T-shape, but we give advice and we give clear direction on what success looks like and how to get that success. So in our case, it's more of a consulting approach. So I'm really excited to hear the other guys.
Awesome. Yeah. I guess like it's easier to position yourself as a performance one, and then move to other areas of the organization, because once you analyze the company as a whole, like its business model, its market, its customer, the customer journey, then it becomes clear to you where the biggest opportunity is in that moment, right? People tend to think that it's always on the first A of the part metrics, are always on the acquisition side, but the biggest opportunity might be on other growth lever, right? So
normally it is.
Normally it is.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, sure.
I want to double click on something Emilio said that's a really important point, is if you're launching a growth service, think of what you do in two categories: strategy and execution. And like Emilio was saying, like the T-shaped marketer, being able to be a strategic partner, like a head of growth across their entire business model, and lead with that. If you're launching an agency, what is secondary is that execution. And I wish we could all do everything extremely well. Unless you're a full service agency, that's a little hard. So be very transparent with clients, like, hey, we really excel at performance marketing. We really excel at CRO. Our strength is not SEO. Our strength is not affiliate marketing. Clients will trust you more when you're that much more transparent. So I think that's a really good point I want to drive home.
That's awesome. Ali, do you want to add something?
Come on, yes, sure. I'm just excited because it makes completely sense. And it's actually the same approach that we have here, because we know that growth see the business in a whole perspective. So it's not an A, it's all the funnel, it's all the things that happen to the business succeed. So now, when we build business, we know that we are not, we don't need to be great only on acquisition. We need to be great in all the other things too. And that's the perspective that we have too. And when we go to the strategy, to the operation, like, okay, we need to go very deep in some strategy, in some channel specifically. So then we just normally build a team for that. We normally start to experimenting just to test, just to, validate that these ideas make sense and the results are there. So then we just need to, make a better move and a structured team just to fulfill this. That's an approach that we do too.
If I'm not mistaken, Ali, once we had a chat like a while ago, and you mentioned about one of your customers that they hired you to improve, or like the attribution model, right? Better track their ads and their paid media. But you guys, and correct me if I'm just like wrong here, but you actually asked that customer if you could focus on something different, like in another level, which, if I'm not mistaken, was referral, right? Like, can we also do referral for you? Because they didn't have a referral program, and the results were like a lot better in the referral. That was the performance, right?
Exactly. You remembering very well, Pedro. It's a company here in Brazil. These guys actually received a Series B, I think. When we are working, these guys are not receiving. These are in the seed money, and these guys have a little idea focused on ads. Online ads is my channel. But when we look in the data, we just starting to understand that, come on, man, the results are not coming from here. So we just start to, build experiments in another channels, in other ideas of acquisition, and referral was one of the best ones. And we test that. So exactly what I'm talking a few minutes later, we test the referral program, and it starting to make a good sense, a good work. So we start to move the money from one channel to another, and the results just like thrive because it's the right channel. And it's something that is important to point out also, because when we have this approach of growth, we need to have data to support our decisions. It's just like experimentation, important thing to have.
Yeah.
You have no way to close the cycle of learning without this data. So it's something that normally it's not done in many companies, in many strategies. People start to make something and only see the results in a broad way. It does not correlate very correctly. Where are the levers, about for the result itself. So it's important, very important too. And so that's the history. And yes, these guys just like move for this another direction because of this whole perspective of the business and the data to support these decisions. So
yeah, I think that's awesome, and I completely agree with you. Like users, like the market is actually they know a lot about marketing agencies, but growth agencies is a completely new thing. So you don't go after someone to help you do an onboarding process or a referral program. You normally go to help like with ads, content, or inbound or something like that. So it's a new word, and in that direction, like Jim, you wrote a book about growth marketing, which was one of like Amazon's bestseller, right? You even like, if I'm not mistaken, you took off Seth Godin, right, out of the first place in Amazon.
but only for 48 hours, and then he skyrocketed.
It's already
past
working.
that.
but it's still
Yeah.
man, it's still
You
yes.
don't need to tell us that second. So in that line, like the book is about growth marketing. So my question to you is like, where does growth marketing intersects with growth hacking, and where does it differ from one another?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at them one and the same. When I think of growth marketing, with traditional marketing, it can be a little bit more top of funnel and you're a little bit more siloed in your approach. When you think of growth marketing, it's a full funnel approach and you're looking at some of those marketing KPIs, but you're also more aligned with business growth objectives, right? And really being a true partner and a steward of the overall like ad budget and all the resources. And so when I think of growth hacking, within growth marketing, I think of like one-off tactics or things that you could be doing that could like fall into the growth marketing strategy. And the big thing is to get buy-in with customers or a potential client. Why would they want growth hacking or growth marketing? Really, it's they either want results, they want learnings, or they want you to build a culture of this test and learn. And before you take on any engagement, you need to be really crisp. And what do they care about? Because that should drive how you steer an engagement or a project. So that's how I kind of decipher the two things, and also like connecting that with what the client cares about.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And guys, it's still on that line of marketing, hacking, data, etc. Like I think one common point that every single one of you guys actually brought up is the importance of data. So I'm guessing like each one of your agencies already have someone who is a data expert. Not saying that they need like a graduation on data science or anything like that, but someone who actually looks at data and can understand and make them all up. So my question is actually on that skill set side of things. What are the skill sets that you guys have in your team? I know that Ale just mentioned that whenever it's something new, like a project for a client, they go and build a squad just for that, even if they need to hire to provide the service. But aside from that, like what else do you guys have as skill sets in your agencies? Ale, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So the first thing for me is just the good perspective, like an entrepreneur. I can say like that because when you see growth as a strategy to build, the growth for the company, the growth process as a strategy, you just need to see the business as all the business, not only your field, not only your silo. So it's an important thing first, and be able to do that allow you to understand a lot of the silos, understand a lot of different possibilities. So that's one skill set that's one of the skills for all of our strategies. These guys need to be and eventually are experienced entrepreneurs. So that's a good thing. So in the second thing is also data is very important. So all the guys need to understand about data and correlate the learnings with data, and then we just specify for the process itself. How to build a well-built experiment, how to define, and how to deal with the team of this other company. That's a challenging thing because you have different resources. Normally, you have different culture in the other team, so you need to be able to manage this difference, these challengings, and that's a skill set. That's part of the skill set that make completely sense for the strategies too. But after all, knowledge related with specific channels can be good too, right? So an expert in SEO, an expert on Facebook ads and whatever, also complement the skill set. But these three earliest is pretty important for the strategies in our environment here.
Cool. So basically, like, you guys have your own squad that you put on every client, but whenever a new skill set is needed, you go after that and you hire someone, even if it's just like a contract base, just for that specific project, and you're gonna do basically whatever it's needed.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Nelio? Do you guys have like a fixed squad? How do you work with that?
So basically, like the way we work, like we are doubling down on performance. So we do performance marketing as execution, and then we have experts that will help direct the client in different directions. So we have people in CRO, copywriting. We have someone that deeply understands organic distribution, which is extremely important for performance as well. Paradoxically.
Yep.
Analytics, cus dev, and and these are pretty much the core component of like the people that we work with. And yes, and basically, like, the way we structure the engagements it's extremely straightforward. We have something that we call the growth intel package. So it's growth intelligence, where we're going to really deeply understand your business. We're going to build we're going to build like a growth sprint that lasts at least 8 weeks. And that is where all these experts, we all come together. That's why we call it a growth studio, where basically we work together to structure the 8-week sprint. So the CRO guy will talk with the cus dev guy, and then we have like the first sprint, you pretty much develop customer insights. Then this will be injected in the website or the CRO, basically on the funnel. And then the copywriting guy will say, okay, by this time we're gonna need like the copy pretty much all done, and then all sort of experiments that they need to do in the first 8 weeks. That's the growth intel, and then the growth ops. We generally just do performance, and then we have just during our catch-up call on a weekly basis, then we provide a depth of insights on all these things. That's pretty much it. So we're not a huge team. We're 6 people, but all of these 6 people are growth marketers. So they're not just copywriters or just CRO or just analytics people. They're people that have been exposed to the breadth of the marketing T-ship, just like myself.
Awesome. And one question that I got, like, when you gather everyone on that like brainstorm sessions and it's prior to actually define what you're gonna run, does the customer actually joins you on that? Like, do you invite key stakeholders from your client's company to actually join you, or is that something you guys do internally and just decided to get that?
We do internally. So it's something we do internally because we have a policy of never making calls more than 3 people. That's the way we work in very lean and small team, because that's the only way I've personally learned that as soon as you're more than 3 people, it becomes all over the place. So we never gather more than 3 people. So if we're gonna do it with the client, it will be 2 people plus the client from the team. If it's someone from the team, there's always like the quote unquote head of growth, which in that case it's still me. Probably in a couple of years, I'm going to hire someone to replace me. And then I will interact with all these people and try to converge that. So this is how we operate.
Awesome. What about growth hate, Jim? I know that you guys got Jeremy on the CRO side.
Yeah.
What
And we actually, honestly, one of the best things we've done, we hired a research analyst where all they do is customer intelligence.
That's
So for anyone that has an agency, one piece of advice I would give, if you own the data, if you own the insights, you can own the meeting. You do not want to be an order taker, but a decision maker. And by having those key insights, you can drive the strategy. And usually companies can be very good at the quantitative analysis, but if you can also do the qualitative analysis, not just know what's happening on the platform, but why, you're going to be able to drive the strategy and drive the experiments. And so we've invested a lot in that, because a lot of times people will hire us for results, but they keep us for that intelligence. And so we treat those insights as their own very important deliverables. And so we have a lot of different research methods we do to try and get at, different experiments we want to do. But that would be advice I would give, is investing early on in any creative ways you can get intelligence they wouldn't already be getting. Because if you can go to a client and tell them something they don't know that can change their business, they're going to really like you, and you'll earn a lot of trust. And that helps with your lifetime value with the client.
That's awesome. That really reminded me of a quote I read yesterday about, like, people are not hiring marketing agencies or growth agencies just for their arms, but also for their brains. So if you're able to get that data and transform a whole bunch of numbers and percentages and everything else into key insights, like usable things that they can actually take out of the paper, that really drives like a lot of retention for you guys. And which also leads me to my next question. And if you want to pick up on that, Jim, like, if someone hires you for a simple marketing project, let's say it, like, I'm guessing most people are, again, from the feedback that I heard from different growth hackers partners that we have, is like, people usually enter, or we start a project with a marketing scope, right? It's like, I really need to do this or need to do that, but it's always along the marketing or acquisition side of things. Is there any tip that you would provide people, like, how do you expand that into other different, like, growth levers or different part of the businesses? Like, how do you can not convince, but how would you go about that?
Yeah, I think you definitely want to be true partners. And one thing to do is, instead of letting them tell you what they need, be like, hey, that's great, we hear you. Like, even before you try and do a big engagement, you could do a smaller engagement that's more of like an assessment or a roadmap, and be like, hey, let us get access to Google Analytics. Let us get access to the Shopify backend, whatever that is, read-only access. And you can assess how they're doing. Like, is too much of their traffic from paid? Are they having a low conversion rate? Or if it's a SaaS product, do they have issue converting free to premium? And then you can come back to them and be like, great, you wanted us for this, but just so you know, we are working with X amount of clients. We're comparing you against our benchmarks. We also think there's opportunities for this, this, and this. And the more you can do it, not saying like, hey, we think you need this, but come to it with data, be like, hey, based on what we've seen, you're actually like pretty good here, but wow, there's a big opportunity here. And then you can let them make the decision. But by giving them that advice, and if you can also attach an ROI model with it, to not just talk to them like, oh, this could help, but be like, hey, an increase in conversion rate, an increase in add to cart could have this impact on sales. That can also help. So I think leading with that assessment, roadmap, growth marketing plan, that can help get them to get bought in on what you could do.
That's awesome. And that, like, always when a growth, like, even if we are not talking about a growth agency, but inside a company, an awesome way for a growth hacker to actually, like, gain company buy-in and collaborations from other areas, it's exactly like that. Like, I'm not here to compete with what you already have. I'm here to actually help you make better decisions. So let me try things out, let me test things out, and I'm gonna give you the data for you to make a decision, right? Like, the decision will always be yours. I'm just here to take the bullet so you don't have to do it. Like, I think that's an awesome, so you don't get, like, it's not a competition. Like, we are all here just to help you actually excel at whatever area you might be.
Good.
All right, guys. What else? Like, the most common question that we got from the attendees was actually about pricing. and I'm well aware that there's no like one size fits it all pricing that you can just apply to all of your customers. But how do you guys actually define that? And I'm not saying like I don't expect for you guys to actually give me real numbers or anything like that, but how do you come up with a pricing to a project? Like, Nelio, you want to pick on that?
Yeah, sure. So we try. So I'll be very honest. The whole goal for us is to have the least client possible, because with the least amount of clients, that's where, because I personally, that's where I'm still at, because we're like still like a 6-people army. I still do like a lot of work, like everybody else in this growth studio. So I have like a lot of pleasure in working with the team on projects that we're really excited and that we want to keep for at least a sprint of 6 to 7 months. And we only take a maximum of 5 clients per sprint. So we need to price high, because otherwise, like, we won't be viable as a business. So we're pretty much on the premium range. And the strategic decision is that we actually decided to do this because at the very beginning we used to do like pretty much like everything for everyone, and pricing as least as possible, just to get out of the anxiety of like can be in business. And then we learned that we just like select our clients based on the pricing, because we believe that all of us, like all the 5 people plus myself, we're no growth consultants, with no growth coach, with no growth gurus. We've all been in the trenches. We've been in startups. We as Jim was saying, we've all had that quote unquote accelerated growth curve by being an early stage startup that went far or not. But so we tend really to filter by pricing. So our pricing has to be high because we prefer going super deep in the engagement rather than doing a fast food of growth service. That's our philosophy.
That's awesome. And just like one last question upon that, Nelly, like urban monks, it's not a niche. Like you actually can serve, you can have customers from B2B or B2C, and basically in every industry. Or are you guys specializing in a specific?
We're specialized. So we're specialized in projects that where we would be personally excited to work in, and those are generally like very high innovation projects. I'll give you an example. For instance, one of our clients is a like super smart entrepreneur that came up with an idea to create a product. He was like an investment banker working on innovation projects for desalination of water in like huge, and he came here to the region to create these huge projects with the government and whatnot. And he had like a super smart idea. I said, like, man, the technology to do these huge tanks that filter salt in the water to create like drinking water, this same technology we could apply to a small portable device. And so he created like a small portable device that you could carry on a boat, you could carry in rescue emergency situation, that can actually turn seawater into fresh water. So and like these kind of projects, we work a lot with startups in Africa, from the Google Launchpad and Techstars cohorts, high impact entrepreneurs. So we only typically target these type of companies that they're really like, they're onto something, and that's what really keeps us going, to be honest.
Cool.
Do
you want to add?
Yes, sure. I correlate a lot because we started the company only picking a little group of clients, just 2, at least, not more than 2 for any strategies, any strategy guy. There's no way to emerge to be able to build the right view, the right direction to conduct the process for more in the same way. And we also in this specific service, we just make for contracts for 6 months to 1 year, and it's high price because we put our effort fully on this. So it's important to be high priced, and also we normally try to, if we can, we try to choose the most excited, most graded projects that we have. So very, very great innovations also, because we think like, come on, growth is something that works. So what in the market and what in these opportunities here deserve to grow more, something like that. And we just apply our knowledge around. But we also, make a different format nowadays. And there is a format that we already have had validated for more than 40 clients. So I'm just sure that works. And that is a program of 12 weeks. So Pedro, we just in the first 6 weeks, we more refined the strategy, refined the mindset, put out the team related with the client in the same page, thinking about growth mindset, how we go to experiment, what is the best hypothesis for us right now. And, we figure out together this strategy in the first 6 weeks. And then in the last 6 weeks, we start to experiment. So after this 12 weeks, normally it's great because the teams, in the teams itself, not we doing for the teams, the teams actually starting to learn how to close the cycle of an experimentation, and starting to put this concept of this process of growth inside of the culture. And then they becomes to understand how the results are made based on the process. So it's very, very great. So eventually, there is another services connected with this, but it's just different two programs that we have.
Cool.
Mainly.
Awesome. And Jim, how do you guys go about pricing a project at Growth Hit?
Yeah, well, I've definitely made every mistake possible pricing projects. When I started the agency, when I was like a freelancer, I think I did a growth plan for somebody for $500. So I would recommend not doing that. But so first you need to think through your business model that you want and what your options are, right? You could do hourly, you could do cost plus, you could do flat retainer, you could do project-based for a fixed time frame. You could do value-based pricing, right? And so one thing we've settled on is I like predictable revenue. So we do fixed monthly retainer that are value-based, not hourly-based. For a growth assessment, we let people kind of try before they buy, where we'll just do like a strategy. That could take us like a month to 2 months. I'll be like 5 figures that we want to do. Whenever we get into more execution with monthly retainer, we usually will be month to month. We ask for a 3-month fixed. We're kind of getting to a point where we can start to ask for a year, but I don't like to lock people up. We always give people a 30-day out. I can talk about some old price, like, I don't know, it's, similar to these guys. We really have some core services of ads, retention marketing, UI, UX, and CRO. And we now have creative services. And so we try and take on engagements where we can do all of those things, because we want to have less clients rather than more, so we can go deeper and have a bigger impact. So trying to be like, in a good 5-figure range. But I have in the past, you could break off one of those services, be more affordable if you feel that there's great long-term value. Like for us, if we can catch a startup after an A round and do some service, but we know that could be great partners for the long haul, then we will think through, I don't want to say discounting, but doing a scaled back engagement.
Gotcha. So a lot of stuff for people to think about here, like different pricing models, different strategies. But I think that I got in common from Ale and Jim is like they do have a program for lower tiers for people who are just starting out or want to learn more about growth, and also something for the graduated ones, let's call it that way. While Nilio tried to keep it like close and a small group of customers. And yeah, awesome. So some try to scale, some try to keep a kind of a boutique at some level, which is like there's no right or wrong, right? At least there is the wrong, just pricing too low, but there's no one side.
Lessons learned, right?
Yeah.
Actually, something that I could add on this as well is that we also differentiate the type of engagement based on the service we provide, because we do have like a service that it's more mass market, that is more accessible to everyone in order for us to scale faster. But this is like a very specific service that we offer for founders that are looking to build their own personal brand on channels like LinkedIn. This is something that it's proving to scale pretty fast. We started like now 5 months ago. We already have like a very strong pipeline of of clients that are in simply because the pricing is pretty, like, it's affordable to pretty much any founders out there from seed to and up. So that is something that we're planning to scale a bit more. But my advice to anyone listening and that you're trying to get into like building a growth agency, I would say don't start from a scalable model. Nail it before you scale it, because the scaling part will only come from a specific service that you can actually package for scaling, for like to build that scale up. And yeah, like at the beginning, just like really stick to what you know, become extremely specialized in what you know, and then you start providing different services that might help you scale. So I hope that helps someone in the audience then.
Yeah, awesome, man. And I want to pick like a question from the audience and kind of blend together with something that I have been willing to ask, which is like growth has a lot of intersection and collaboration between different teams, right? Like Jim, you just mentioned that you got a UI team, you got a CRO squad in Growth Hate. So that goes like it can go a lot beyond only marketing. And I'm guessing there is also a lot of intersection with like their product team or their this web design team. And I was wondering, like, how do you actually collaborate in terms of actions and also communication with such product teams? Like I have met CTOs that like you would never touch their products. But for you to run a test on an onboarding process, for example, you might have to deploy something. So how do you go about communicating with clients and also this intersection between what you guys are doing and what their team is also doing?
Yeah, this is something we've done a lot of iterations on to try to nail down. Literally the first thing we do in a kickoff call is go through workflow, because it's the most important thing. People will see issues in workflow before performance, and meaning that like they're actually okay with some performance issues. It's the workflow stuff that makes clients the most frustrated. And so for us, we work in weekly sprint cycles. So there's a standing weekly meeting. We connect our Slack channels with Slack Connect. So we have that like nice, easy workflow. We do no email whatsoever. We also try and minimize one-off questions and batch it together, so it can be more of a strategic decision as opposed to them just kind of hitting us with a lot of things. And then with the idea of strategy and execution, if you're doing execution, you need to address every potential bottleneck and remove it. So if you're doing testing, make sure it's within like a Google optimized or testing platform where you can own everything from top to bottom. Because here's what happens to us. At least it happens every single time. If they're like, no, our dev will do it. Our dev will do that final thing. If they're in the workflow, guess what? You're faster than them and you care more. They're going to hold you up, which means you're not going to get things live as fast as you want, and you're not going to get the results, and it eventually comes back on you. So if that's an issue, we'll address that up front and be like, maybe this isn't a fit, or we'll just be like, hey, we're not going to do any execution. Let us just do strategy. And so that's something you have to be very clear with. If not, it's very painful 3 months down the road. And one thing we would also do is within the first 2 weeks, we really want to flex and show how quick we are, whether that's getting a quick test live, validating that all the conversion events are firing properly, just so the client sees the workflow in action and they trust it. Because if they don't trust it, they're going to try and rewrite your process. And then it's a downward spiral of no fun.
Awesome. I'm guessing like everyone in this room might have faced something similar already, right? So you guys also defined like how the communication and the intersection between what you guys are doing and what they are doing, like kind of on the kickoff, or how do you guys, like, do you have predefined meetings or do you have a Slack channel? How do you guys deal with it? Ale,
Yeah,
you want to go first?
yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. We really define this in the kickoff meeting, and when we are settling up everything. So for us, normally are just like 2 weeks on sprint. So, but we also have weeks, Also, we have a group of chat, normally in Slack, but also another tools that we connect with the teams. But for us, one thing that we learned hardly because of the problems with the execution is the C-level needs, must be on board, must be on board, because the decisions that we need to commit and the people that we need to involve does need this kind of participation, because if it's not there, people can just go to other places, and the experimentation itself is does not work. So it's very normal that we are just struggling, trying to put some new thing to do in the middle of a lot of things that these guys do. So eventually we also pick the experimentation for us, like, come on, let me do the experimentation in a week 2. I will serve you with the results. So we just give me the connections, give me the authorizations, and I will make this happen because of the time, because of our need for results. But it's eventually also the first thing that we do, because after that, with some results, we're starting to making together and go in this way, right?
Awesome. So I want to change a little bit and pick something that Killian has said in the comment section. So basically, everyone is talking from a different market here, right? We got Nelio is from France, right?
No, I'm actually in Dubai.
No, you are in Dubai, but you were French.
You started?
No, Italian.
All right, so close enough. We got Italy, we got United States, we got Brazil, people from everywhere. So I guess different markets, they have different knowledge about growth. Some are more mature, like gyms in the United States. Growth is more mature as a methodology, and in others are just starting out. People might not fully understand what growth is all about, right? I wonder, if you guys would have to explain what is growth hacking. I know there's a lot of different terminations to define growth hacking, and people see it in different ways. The methodology has evolved a lot since Sean coined the term 10 years ago. But sometimes you do have to explain what you're if you find an opportunity with a customer and you want to expand what they might have hired you to do, how do you go about actually explaining that to a customer? I want to test things out. I want to validate hypotheses. I want to build a growth process. How would you go about that? Nelly, do you want to pick this one?
Sure. For me personally, so growth hacking really boils down to 3-4 things. So the first thing, I always refer back to the marketing T-shape. Why? Because the growth marketing T-shapes really gives you an idea of what a growth marketer or growth hacker really does. And it's not just oh, I'm an expert in performance, and then you put me to write a piece of content and I'm I'm terrible at it. Or you're doing creatives and you can't build proper conversion creatives on Lumen or Canva or whatever. Your skill set really really boils down to that. And so every time a client comes in, the way we explain is that, hey, we're here for this specific scope, but we're going to give you a lot of breadth of knowledge that this knowledge transfer, that it transcends the performance. That's the first thing. The second thing, it's a full funnel approach. So meaning that it's not only about acquisition, but we also go really deep into retention models, in really understanding how to find growth drivers in the full, at every step of the funnel. And then probably the last thing is really that mindset. That is, I always linked the growth mindset to the infinite learning mindset, as Reid Hoffman likes to call it, the founder of LinkedIn and the host of Master of Scales. Is literally you always want to learn. You always want to read. You always feel you need to geek out on something. And if you are that kind of person, that is what defines probably a growth mindset. So these are the 3 things. And then the fourth one, the bonus one, would be high experimentation protocol. So really being super data driven and being able to create small experiments and get a lot of understanding from that. this is for me, I think it really goes down to 4 things. That's how I explain it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think that's covered like basically all the different terminations of growth. And like one thing that you guys have repeated over and over again, and we even call our product experiments, it's experiments. Jeff Bezos has a quote that like, if you know in advance what is going to work or not, that's not an experiment. So that basically means that some of the experiments that you are doing for your customer, it's going to fail, but they're like normally their expectation might not be aligned with the reality of failed experiments. So how do you guys face that reality of some experiments will fail and that's actually part of the process? Do you align that up front with the customer? Do you let them realize? Do you set them like different levels of failures, like objectives and ideas? How would you go about that? You want to pick that one first, Ale?
Yeah, for us, it's like a no-go if you're in a negotiation and we say that mainly, or maybe our strategy or your ideas or your hypothesis that, oh, I need to make Google ads or I need to make anything, my strategy, eventually we would not work. And and the problem is if we don't close the cycle, understand what not works, and try to figure out a better way to do. And that's a thing that correlates with the last question, because when we say that things may not work, we starting to put an idea that all the things needs to be an experiment just to be validated, then you put your investment on that.
Yeah.
So that's the experience based way to do, to pursue a learning that will make you a sustainable growth, that's the idea basic on the growth mindset here.
And so you aligned with the C-level prior that you're going to be taking risks, but it's kind of controlled, right? Like the downs. I remember a quote like from another partner of ours, like, you're going to hire us, we're going to fail, but the downside of every failure, it's controlled. So it's limited. We always know that if it's not validated, we know how bad it's going to get, but the upside is unlimited. So everything is kind of like in a lab where if it goes wrong, we know how bad it will go, and it's limited, but the upside is unlimited.
Yeah, we have the ability to control the risk. So you limited the worst case. You define the worst case will be that. So fine, let's go ahead. And that's an important thing about experimentation. And normally when in another approach, any strategy for go to marketing or whatever, it's like a 6 months project with a lot of money involved, a lot of team involved, and without no much evidence, no much experience based way to validate until you put the money. So that's the difference for me.
Makes sense. So alas, like we are coming up to close to an end here, and if we look back at like how marketing agencies and agencies as a whole have evolved over time, like if we look at like the 90s, like agencies were doing websites, right? That's basically how, and then it came like the inbound wave and content marketing wave, and then most of them drove to paid media, and now we are having growth, kind of like I believe as this completely new definition of a full service agency, right? Because you wouldn't expect to hire a UI or onboarding or CRO from an agency, and that's the reality now. Where do you guys think that we are going next over the next 3 or 5 years? Although we're still on the growth wave, I think it's just taking off, as Killian was saying in the comment section, like I'm in a market in Germany that like how do you guys differ from one another? So my question is like, what do you guys think that is the next step for agencies? Not only, and I'm taking the marketing agency off because it's not only marketing, in my opinion. Like you guys are doing and providing a lot of more value than simply like on the acquisition channel. Jim, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I like taking a step back. It's like, okay, where have things gone? Where have things been to where they're at today? You've had like these traditional big ad agencies, full service agencies, and then companies are knowing they need to adapt to digital. They're going towards growth. They're also getting more comfortable with remote work, with having contractors and freelancers. So what that means is they're going more digital, and they're fine to get one-off people for things. So if you're starting an agency today, that's your advantage. It means they don't need this one-stop shop agency. They're used to getting a lot of different players. So actually starting with specialization could be a really good advantage, where people have a whole bunch of people that specialize in different things, and then maybe they need a growth agency to bring it all together. So if I'm starting today, like, I was fortunate that, like, I would launch my agency on the back of this idea of growth marketing, growth hacking. How can you do that today? It doesn't have to be necessarily a trend like that, but it could be a trend plus an industry. It's like growth hacking for crypto, for cannabis, for live e-commerce streaming, whatever that is. Because leading with that specialty, companies are more and more comfortable going with specialists, and they're comfortable trying to find people that are the experts in these new trends. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on and trying to figure out, where do we plant our flag, and categories over the next 10 years are just going to be going up and to the right.
Makes a lot of sense. You guys like want to add something? Like, I know Nilo is almost like.
No, I'm just no.
But you know, I thinking like Gene. Sorry, Daniel, come on, get up.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Fine. So I'm thinking very alike Gene, because I'm thinking in the moment the specialization of growth will happen, are happening actually, and based not only on niches, kind of different markets, but also eventually different business models, B2B, B2C, or also different channels. Like, you are great on SEO, I'm great on growth strategies for whatever, so this is kind of a specialization. Just come on, there's a lot of opportunities here because if you apply the experimentation way to do things, to learn, to close the cycle, to get sustainable growth, to be predictable with the results, based on data, and apply that for any channel, for any strategy, for any market, you probably have something, you probably have something to offer. So there's a lot of opportunities to take a deep in your market, where you are, who you want to serve, and understand how to use these principles in this context. So come on, I see a lot of possibilities. So
Awesome.
it's exciting.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, so we are almost over here. We just lost Jim.
Yeah.
So it was over for him right now.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. Oh, come on.
He's back. All right.
Yeah, cool.
So I was just wrapping this up, guys. I want to say thank you all for joining me today, both the speakers and all the attendees. I know that we have got like over 50 questions from the registers that we didn't have the time to address. We will be doing like the version, second version, third version, fourth version of these roundtables if you guys like it. But for now, thank you so much, Jim, Nilo, and Ale. If someone wants to find you guys, where they should go to, Nelio, wanna like
LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. Yeah, Nelio Leone. That's where you'll find me.
Awesome. What about you, Ale?
Yeah, I think the best way is in Twitter. So it's A Ferrari. You can find me there, and also in the Tração Online page. So it's tração.online. So it's easy.
Right. In Jim?
Yeah, Twitter, Jim W. Huffman. Our website's growthhit.com. Our email and contact forms there. And then I have a podcast if I was starting today. So yeah, that's where I am.
Highly recommend following these guys, listening to the podcast. I'm personally a listener and a reader. So thank you guys again, and see you next time.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Take care.